The mockery in the far edge of the Orion Arm, inside a colony ruled by the Zereth Empire, a child was born. But she was not like the others. She was different. Half human, half alien. Her skin carried faint traces of human softness, but her eyes glowed with the strange fire of the Zereth. From the very first day, she was mocked. The aliens whispered, "Too dirty to keep." Some laughed, others spat on the ground when she passed. They said she was a mistake, a broken mix that never should have existed. She was not given a real name. They only called her a half-blood. When she tried to walk in the marketplace, children threw stones. Traders covered their goods, afraid she might touch them. Guards ignored her, except when they wanted to push her aside for amusement. She lived in the shadows of the colony walls, where the smell of rust and burning oil never left the air. Years passed, but nothing changed. The half-blood grew older, but never free. She was small and thin, her back bent from years of carrying loads that others refused to carry. She was forced to clean the filth of the streets, scraping mud and waste while the aliens shouted insults. "Look at her," one alien sneered. "Too dirty to live among us." She should have been killed at birth, another hissed. But they kept her alive for one reason only, to remind others what happened when species mixed. She was not a person. She was a warning dot at night. When the colony grew quiet, she sat alone under the broken metal towers. She looked at the stars, whispering to herself. Somewhere out there were humans, people who might have cared, people who might not have called her dirty, but she had never met them. She only knew stories. Still, she wondered, what if one day a human saw me? Would they laugh too? Or would they understand? But dreams were dangerous. Hope was forbidden. So she kept her thoughts hidden deep inside, like fire under ash. The rulers of the colony, tall and cruel Zereth commanders, often paraded her in front of crowds. They made her kneel while they spoke. "Look well," the commanders told their people. "This is the result of weakness. This is what happens when the pure mix with the filthy." The crowd jeered. Children pointed. Someone threw food scraps at her face. She did not cry anymore. She had learned that tears only made them laugh louder. Instead, she stared at the ground. But inside, a storm was growing. There was one day she would never forget. It was during the Festival of Strength, when the Zereth celebrated their power. They dragged her into the arena, chains around her wrists. The stadium was full, thousands of voices rising like thunder. The announcer shouted, "Here is the half-blood. Too dirty to keep, but too useful to throw away." The crowd roared with laughter. They forced her to clean the bloodstains of the fighters, crawling on her knees while the audience cheered. Every moment was humiliation. Yet, as she scrubbed the floor, she looked up. And for the first time, she saw something strange. At the edge of the arena, among the crowd, stood a human. He was scarred, his face hard from many battles. He did not laugh like the others. He did not cheer. He only watched her, silent, his eyes steady. Her heart froze. Had dreamed of seeing a human, but now that it happened, fear struck her. Would he mock her too? Would he call her dirty, just like everyone else? But his gaze was different. There was no hatred in it, no disgust. Only something she could not understand, yet something quiet, something heavy. The guards yanked her chains, pulling her back to the shadows. The crowd forgot her again. The laughter returned, but she could not forget the human's eyes. That night, as she sat in the dirt behind the colony walls, she thought of him. Who was he? Why was he here? And why, in a sea of hatred, had he looked at her differently? She did not know yet, but the universe had already begun to shift. For years, she had been mocked. For years, she had been told she was too dirty to keep, But something inside her whispered, perhaps not everyone believes that. And so, in the quiet dark, a spark of hope lit inside her heart, small, fragile, but alive, the spark that would change everything. Asterisk, the human stranger. The night after the Festival of Strength was colder than usual. The colony's steel walls trapped the wind, and the neon lights flickered like dying stars. The half-blood girl sat against a rusted pipeline, her arms wrapped around her thin frame. Her bruises still ached from being dragged across the arena floor, and the chains had left deep red marks around her wrists. But her mind was not on the pain. It was on him, the human, the scarred stranger who had stood in the crowd, silent while the others laughed. His gaze had cut through the jeers and the cruelty, steady and unflinching. She had seen eyes filled with hate her entire life, but his had been something else entirely. A calm storm. A silent fire. She didn't know why, but she couldn't shake. The memory. The colony was a place where humans rarely came. The Zereth controlled everything, and humans were considered weak, inferior, a dying race only useful as slaves or mercenaries. If a human was here, he was either a fool, a captive, or something much more dangerous. And this one did not look like a captive. The next day, she was ordered to the outer districts to clean the docking yards. Her bare feet touched the cold steel as she scrubbed the floors beneath massive alien ships. The air smelled of fuel and ozone, and the Zereth guards barked at her to move faster. That's when she saw him again. The human stood near one of the dock transports, speaking with a group of alien traders. His cloak was dark, hood pulled low, but she recognized him instantly. His scarred face, his quiet eyes. Her heart skipped. She dropped her brush, staring for too long. A guard noticed. He struck her across the back with the blunt end of his staff. "Work, filth," he shouted, eyes down. She fell to her knees, biting back a cry. But when she dared glance up again, the human was watching her. This time, he moved. He walked across the docking yard with calm, deliberate steps. The guards barely noticed him at first. He moved like someone who belonged, like someone too confident to question. He stopped in front of her. The half-blood froze, staring at the ground, afraid to meet his eyes directly. She expected him to spit at her, or kick her aside, or sneer, like the others. Instead, he crouched down. He reached into his cloak, pulled out a small metal container, and slid it across the floor toward her. Inside was food bread, dried meat, and a flask of water. Her breath caught. No one had ever given her food before. Not like this. Not with kindness. She looked up, confused, trembling. His eyes met hers again, calm, steady, filled with something she didn't recognize. Not pity, not disgust, but recognition. Like he saw her. Not the chains, not the dirt, not the mockery. Her. Then, without a word, he stood and walked away. The guards didn't notice. To them, he was just another mercenary, passing through. But she sat frozen, staring at the food in her lap. Her hands shook as she lifted the bread to her lips. It was the sweetest thing she had ever tasted, though it was dry and plain. Each bite felt like rebellion, like hope itself. She had lived years believing no one would ever see her as more than filth. Yet here was a stranger human, scarred, mysterious, who had chosen to help her. Why? That night, she could not sleep. She replayed the moment over and over, his steady eyes haunting her. She needed to know who he was. 2 nights later, she found him again. It was near the scrap markets, where broken machines and stolen tech were sold in secret. She had been sent to carry waste metal, her chains rattling as she dragged the load. A human was there, standing in the shadows, watching the crowd with sharp eyes. She dared to approach. "Why? Why did you help me?" she whispered, voice trembling. He didn't answer at first. He studied her, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke, his voice low, rough, but calm. "Because you are alive." The words confused her. Alive? Everyone is alive. He shook his head. "No, not like you. They breathe, but you endure. They mock you, but you do not break. You are stronger than they know." Her throat tightened. No one had ever said such things to her. "Who are you?" she asked. For a long moment he was silent. Then he said, "Once I was a soldier. Now I am only a wanderer." "A soldier?" she whispered. He nodded. "I fought for humans. I lost more than I can tell. Now I walk alone." There was weight in his words, scars hidden beneath them. She saw pain in his eyes, old and deep. And for the first time, she felt something she had never known: connection. But their conversation ended quickly. The sound of boots echoed through the alley. Alien guards were coming. The human melted into the shadows, vanishing like smoke. She was left standing alone when the guards found her. They shoved her aside, cursing her filth. But she didn't care. For the first time in her life, she had spoken with someone who didn't see her as trash. Someone who saw her as alive. In the days that followed, she saw him again and again, in the marketplace, at the docking yards, near the old ruins. Always at a distance, always watching. Rumors began to spread. The half-blood speaks with a human. Perhaps she is plotting. Perhaps he is her master. The mocking grew louder, the laughter sharper. The rulers sneered. Even among humans, she can only find trash. But they did not know the truth. Each secret meeting, each stolen word, drew her and the human closer. She told him of her life, her chains, her endless humiliation. He listened, silent, never judging. In return, he told her pieces of his past battles lost, comrades buried, orders disobeyed. Both of them were outcasts. Both of them carried scars. Slowly, a bond formed in the darkness of the colony, but the colony was not blind. The rulers began to notice. One night, as she walked back to her quarters, chains rattling at her ankles, shadows stepped out from the alleys. Guards. They seized her, dragging her to the plaza. There, waiting in the torchlight, was the Zereth commander. His voice boomed. "So, the filthy half-blood thinks herself worthy of a human mate?" He sneered. "You shame us with your presence. Perhaps it is time we remind you of your place." The crowd gathered, eager for entertainment. They jeered, laughing as the guards bound her tighter. And in the crowd, unseen by most, the human stood. His eyes burned, his fists clenched. He said nothing. He did nothing. Not yet, but inside him, a fire had already ignited. And when the fire burned free, Azereth would regret ever mocking her. The bond that the colony never slept. Its streets buzzed with neon signs, the hiss of steam vents, and the constant grind of machines. But within that chaos, the half-blood girl moved quietly, carrying her chains like invisible shadows. Her bruises from the commander's lesson had not faded, but she no longer felt only pain. She felt a presence, somewhere out. There, in the alleys, on the rooftops, or among the crowds, he was watching. The human. She could not explain why, but the thought of him nearby gave her strength. Days passed, and the guards grew harsher. They had seen her whisper with the stranger, and suspicion poisoned their minds. They wanted to crush her, to show the crowd that no bond could form between filth and man. One evening, when she was ordered to clean the commander's quarters, they cornered her. 4 guards, armed and sneering. "You think you are special now?" One hissed, "Because a human fed you scraps?" Another spat at her feet. "He will leave. They always leave. And you will still be dirt." She said nothing. Years of silence had taught her survival. But in her chest, fire burned hotter than fear. And then, a sound, a scrape of metal, a shadow moving at the end of the hall. The guards turned. But there was nothing. When they looked back, the girl's eyes had changed. She was still afraid, but she was not broken. That night, when they dragged her outside and threw her into the dirt, she saw him. Hidden in the crowd, cloaked in darkness, he had been there, watching, protecting, without striking. Not yet. The bond began to grow in secret. He would leave food where only she could find it. A flask of water, tucked beneath a broken pipe. A strip of cloth to bind her wounds, hidden under rubble. And sometimes, when the night was deepest, he would appear. They met in the ruins beyond the colony walls, where twisted towers have forgotten. Wars rose against the stars. She would sit among the shattered steel, waiting, her heart pounding with fear and anticipation. And he would come, silent as the wind, his cloak carrying the scent of dust and iron. The first time they truly spoke. It was near the ruins of a broken ship. "You should not follow me," she whispered. "If they see us together, they will kill me. Maybe kill you too." He leaned against the rusted hull, his face hidden in shadow. "Let them try." His voice carried no arrogance, no boast, only truth, heavy and solid. She stared at him, trembling. "Why? Why risk anything for me? I am nothing." His eyes sharpened. "You are not nothing. They mock you because they fear what you are." Her throat tightened. "Fear me? They spit on me. They laugh. They call me dirty." He stepped closer. His scarred hand lifted, not touching, but hovering near her shoulder like a shield. "Listen." "To me," he said, his voice low and steady. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have fought beside humans who had nothing but broken weapons and unbroken wills. And I have seen creatures far stronger than the Zereth crumble when faced with one truth. What they call weakness is strength they cannot kill." Her breath caught. She searched his face, desperate for lies, but finding none. For the first time in her life, someone was not just pitying her, not mocking her, not ignoring her. He believed in her. Night after night, their secret meetings continued. She told him about her childhood chains, laughter, stones thrown by children, the endless reminders that she was too dirty to keep. He told her of his battles wars, where humans stood against impossible odds, where friends were lost, where commands were disobeyed because his heart refused cruelty. Both were outcasts. Both carried scars that the world refused to heal. And as they shared those pieces, something stronger than fear began to form between them. But the world is cruel, and whispers travel fast. The guards noticed her absences. Traders spoke of a shadowy human seen in the ruins, and the commander's suspicion turned into rage. "She dares find comfort in the arms of a human?" He thundered, "Then we shall tear it from her." The storm came suddenly. One evening, as she left the ruins, a net of steel wires dropped from above. She struggled, thrashing, but the trap closed tight. Guards swarmed, dragging her through the dirt. The human appeared, stepping from the shadows, but too late. The commander himself stood in the plaza, waiting with a cruel smile. "Bring her here," he ordered. The crowd gathered quickly, eager for the spectacle. "She believes herself worthy of a bond," the commander sneered. "She believes a human could lift her above the dirt. Tonight, we show her the truth." They forced her to her knees in the center of the square. Torches burned. Chains rattled. Laughter filled the air. And at the edge of the crowd, the human stood. His cloak hid him, but his eyes burned like fire. The commander raised his hand. A blade glimmered. "This filth forgets her place. Let this night remind her, and remind all of you what happens when weakness dares to dream." "The crowd roared approval, but the girl, kneeling in chains, lifted her head. She did not weep. She did not beg. She met the commander's gaze with silent defiance. And then, her eyes found the human. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. The guards laughed. The commander raised his blade. The crowd cheered. But in that silence, in that single locked gaze, an unspoken bond sealed itself. Not of pity. Not of survival, dot of. Fire, dot of resistance, dot of destiny. The blade fell, but it never struck. A shadow moved faster than sight. A blur of steel and fury. The commander's arm was caught, twisted, broken in a heartbeat. The crowd gasped. Guards rushed forward, but were thrown aside like toys. The human stood in the torchlight now, his cloak torn, his scars revealed. His voice thundered like iron. Touch her again, and you will answer to me. The crowd fell into stunned silence. For years she had been mocked, chained, humiliated. But in that single moment, before thousands of watching eyes, someone had stood for her. Not just anyone, a human. And the galaxy would never be the same. Again, asterisk the breaking point. The plaza was silent, except for the crackle of torches. The human's voice still echoed in the night air. Touch her again, and you will answer to me. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The Zereth commander stared, disbelief, twisting his face. Around him, the guards froze. The crowd, always eager for blood, had fallen into stunned silence. A human, a scarred wanderer, a stranger who dared to defy the rulers of the colony. The commander's mouth curled into a cruel smile. Answer to you? He sneered. A weak human defending dirt, you will be broken beside her. He motioned. Dozens of guards rushed forward, weapons raised. The human did not retreat. His cloak fell to the ground, and the firelight revealed scars carved deep into his skin, muscle hardened by countless battles. In his hands, he carried no weapon. Only his fists. The guards lunged, and the first fell before he even screamed. Strike to the throat. A snap of bone. Another guard spun backward, teeth flying as a fist shattered his jaw. The human moved like a storm, silent but merciless. Every strike was precise, every movement honed by years of war. The crowd gasped as alien bodies hit the ground one by one, unable to stand against him. The half-blood watched, her heart racing. She had dreamed of rescue many times, but never like this. Never so violent. Never so raw. The commander snarled, his pride burning hotter than fear. Seize him, he roared. Kill the human. More guards surged forward, weapons sparking. With electric charge, the human finally reached for steel. From beneath his cloak, he drew a blade not Zereth design, not alien at all. A human blade, simple, sharp, and deadly. It caught the torchlight as it sang through the air. The clash filled the plaza. Sparks flew. Guards screamed. The crowd no longer laughed. They shouted, panicked, their jeers turning into fear. The middle of it all, the human fought like he had nothing left to lose. But even storms can be drowned by numbers. More guards arrived, armed with shock spears and stun chains. The human cut them down, but each strike cost him. A spear grazed his shoulder, sending sparks across his scars. Chains wrapped around his arm, burning flesh. Still, he fought. Still, he stood. The girl cried out, straining against her chains. Stop! They will kill you. His eyes met hers for a brief moment. Calm even in the chaos. Not while you are. Still breathing, he said. Asterisk, the commander had seen enough. Rage twisted his face as he drew his own weapon. A cruel, curved blade, forged from the bones of fallen enemies. The crowd cheered again, eager for blood. You dare defy me in my own colony? He spat. You will crawl before me, human. You will beg. The human did not answer. He only raised his sword. The commander charged. Steel met steel. The clash rang out like thunder, sparks flying as the human blocked the strike. The commander was fast, stronger than his size suggested, each blow meant to kill. Asterisk, but the human fought with patience. Every parry was controlled, every movement deliberate. He was not simply fighting the commander, he was studying him. Asterisk. The duel raged, blades flashing under the torchlight. The crowd roared, half in fear, half in awe, and the girl, still bound, watched with wide eyes. Her heart pounded with terror, and hope. At last, the commander's blade cut across the human's arm, drawing blood. The crowd roared in triumph. The commander grinned. See? Humans bleed like any other filth. But the human only smiled faintly, blood dripping from his arm. Yes, he said, but humans don't stop. And then he struck. A feint to the left, a sudden pivot, and his blade sliced through the commander's guard. Sparks flew as steel bit deep into alien armor. The commander staggered back, fury flashing across his face. You, he snarled. The human didn't let him finish. With a roar, he slammed his blade aside and drove his fist into the commander's chest. The sound cracked through the air. The mighty Zirith stumbled, coughing blood. The crowd fell silent. For the first time in memory, their commander had been struck down by a human. The guards hesitated. The crowd wavered. The balance of fear shifted, and in that silence, the girl felt something ignite deep inside her chest. For years she had been mocked, chained, called worthless. For years she had been told she was too dirty to keep. But now, before the entire colony, a human had fought armies for her. He had stood when no one else dared, and the chains around her wrists felt suddenly lighter. The commander, gasping, rose again. His eyes burned with rage. You will not leave here alive. He raised his blade for one final strike, but something else happened first. A sound, a hum. From deep within the plaza, ancient machines stirred. The lights flickered. The ground shook. The girl's eyes widened. She felt it inside her, a resonance, a vibration in her blood. The prophecy whispered in the dark corners of the empire. The reason they had never killed her, though they mocked her every day. The half-blood was not just a mistake. She was something more. The commander faltered, sensing it too. He turned toward her, suspicion twisting his face. No, he whispered. Not her, not now. But the human did not hesitate. He slashed his blade one final time, sending the commander sprawling to the ground. Silence fell. The human stood over the broken alien, chest heaving, blood dripping. He turned, his eyes finding the girl once more. And in that moment, the crowd saw what their rulers had feared all along. Human defiance, and the spark of something greater, hidden in the blood of the one they mocked. The guards dragged the commander away, but whispers filled the air. She lives. The human fights for her. The prophecy. It is real. The girl's chains were pulled tighter, and she was dragged back toward the cages. The human was seized too, shackled by dozens of guards. But even bound, he did not look defeated. His eyes never left hers. And in those eyes, she found strength she never knew she had. The breaking point had come, and the galaxy itself seemed ready to crack. Asterisk. The escape. The cell was cold. The air smelled of rust and damp stone. Chains rattled whenever she moved, heavy cuffs biting into her wrists. The half-blood girl sat in silence, staring at the crack of light spilling through the barred window high above her head. She had been here before. Not this exact cell, but cages like it. Shackles, laughter outside, guards calling her filth. It was nothing new, and yet this time felt different, because in the darkness across from her, chained to the wall, sat the human. His face was bruised, blood dried on his skin. His arm hung heavy, wounded from the battle. But his eyes still burned steady. She couldn't look away. "Why did you fight them?" she whispered. His voice was low, rough but calm. "Because someone had to. You should not have risked it. They will kill you for nothing." He gave the smallest of smiles, then let them try. She wanted to argue, but no words came. She had spent her whole life being told she was worthless. Yet here was someone broken and bleeding, who fought armies just to stand beside her. And in that silence, chains or no chains, she felt stronger. The door clanged open. Guards entered, dragging the commander with them. His armor was dented, his pride wounded more than his body. He pointed at the human, his voice shaking with rage. "This one dies tonight, slowly." The guards grinned. "And as for you," his eyes locked on the girl, "you will be made an example. No one will ever forget what happens when filth thinks itself worthy of more." He turned, ordering, "Preparations for a public execution." The human met her gaze. He didn't speak, but his eyes said it clearly. This is not the end. Night fell. They were dragged into the execution plaza, bound in chains. The crowd gathered once again, drawn by blood and spectacle. Torches blazed, alien banners waved, and the commander stood tall on a raised platform. "Tonight," he shouted, "we end this mockery. The human dies as the weakling he is. The half-blood dies as the mistake she is. And the colony remains pure." The crowd roared. The girl knelt, her chains pulling tight. Fear pressed against her chest. She could hear the hiss of the executioner's blade heating, glowing red. But beneath the fear, there was something else. That hum, that resonance, the same vibration she had felt when the machine stirred during the commander's fight with the human. It pulsed in her blood now, louder, stronger. The ground trembled faintly. The torches flickered. No one else noticed, but she did. The human leaned close, whispering through clenched teeth. "Do you feel it?" Her eyes widened. You know?" He gave a faint nod. "It is not weakness. It is power. Yours. Use it." Her heart pounded. She had never used anything. She had never been anything but dirt to them. But his voice was unshakable, his belief absolute. And for the first time, she believed it too. The executioner raised the blade. The commander smiled, savoring the moment, and then everything broke. The chains around her wrists rattled, then snapped like brittle glass. The ground beneath the platform shook, sending guards stumbling. Lights across the plaza burst, showering sparks. The ancient machines buried under the colony machines of wars long past answered her blood. The crowd screamed. "What is this?" The commander roared. The human surged forward, his chains breaking. Under the force of his arms, he slammed into the nearest guard, ripping the weapon from his hand. Steel flashed, and the first alien fell. Chaos erupted. The girl rose, eyes glowing faintly with a light that was not fully human. The machines roared with her heartbeat, tearing through the ground, raking into the open. Towers shuddered, alarms wailed. The human fought like fire, cutting down guards with precision. He moved beside her, never in front of her, as though they were equals in battle. "Move!" he shouted. They ran through the chaos, pushing through panicked crowds. Guards tried to block them, but the machines stirred to life, doors slamming shut, lights blinding, walls tearing open to clear their path. The girl's fear melted into something else, strength. For the first time, she was not the mocked half-blood, not the broken mistake. She was power. They reached the docking yard. The air smelled of smoke and fuel, engines screaming as ships tried to flee the chaos. The commander's voice roared over the loudspeakers. "Stop them! Do not let them leave!" Alive! Hundreds of guards swarmed, their weapons flashing, The human tightened his grip on the stolen blade. His face was pale, blood dripping from his arm, but his eyes burned with iron fire. "Stay close," he told her. "I will fight too," she said, her voice steady for the first time. His smile was fierce. Good. The battle exploded in the docking yard. The human cut through guards like a storm, his every strike fueled by years of survival and defiance. The girl moved with him, the machines answering her call doors slamming shut on enemies, engines sparking to life and blasting them with fire, steel beams collapsing to block pursuit. The Zirith had mocked her as dirt. But now, before their eyes, she became a weapon. The crowd that had jeered now screamed in terror. They reached a ship, a battered freighter left in the corner of the yard. "Can you fly it?" she asked, panting. The human smirked. "I can fly anything." They raced. Aboard, the girl touched the console, and once again, the hum answered her. The systems lit up instantly, the old freighter coming alive as if it had been waiting only for her. Engines roared. Lights blazed, and the docking doors opened. But just as freedom was within reach, the commander appeared. His armor scorched, his blade glowing, his rage unending. He stood before the ship, eyes blazing with fury. "You will not leave," he snarled. "You will burn here, both of you." He raised his weapon, charging. The human stepped forward, blade ready. But the girl stopped him. "No," she said. Her voice was calm, steady, filled with something new. She stepped down the ramp, chains still clinging to her wrists, her eyes glowing brighter. The machines of the freighter hummed with her, the entire ship vibrating like it shared her heartbeat. The commander swung his blade, and the machines obeyed her. Metal arms burst from the ground, slamming into him. Sparks exploded. His weapon shattered. He screamed as the force hurled him across the yard, broken and defeated. The girl stood tall, her chest rising and falling with power dot, and for the first time, the crowd was silent, not mocking, not laughing. Silent Dot the human walked beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Now," he said simply, they boarded the freighter. Engines roared, lifting them into the sky. Below, the colony burned with chaos. The commander lay broken, his army scattered. And the people who had mocked her all her life now stared upward, watching as the too dirty to keep half-blood flew into the stars. The stars opened before them, endless and vast. The girl sat in the cockpit, chains still hanging from her wrists, staring at her glowing hands. "What am I?" she whispered. Dot the human leaned back, his scarred face lit by starlight. "Not filth, not a mistake. You are the reason they are." "Afraid?" She turned to him, her eyes wide. "Afraid of me?" He nodded. "Yes, because together we are the beginning of their end." The engine screamed, and the freighter tore into the black. The escape had begun, but it was only the first. Step into war. Asterisk the revelation. The freighter shuddered as it left the atmosphere, breaking free of the colony's gravity well. The engines roared like beasts, straining against invisible chains, then settled into a low hum as the stars opened before them. The girl sat in the cockpit, staring at the endless black. Her wrists were still bound with broken chains, the metal cuffs hanging loose. The marks they had left burned her skin. But it wasn't the chains she was thinking about, Dot. It was the hum. That strange vibration that had burst through her during the execution. The way the machines had answered her heartbeat. The way the ground itself had seemed to obey her. Her hands still tingled with the memory of it. "What am I?" she whispered again. The human sat across from her, bandaging the gash on his arm. His face was calm, though his body bore fresh wounds. "You already know," he said quietly. She turned to him, her eyes wide. "No, I don't. All my life they said I was nothing. A mistake. Dirt. He tied the bandage tight, his gaze steady. That was their lie. They feared you. That is why they kept you alive, chained but breathing. They could have killed you long ago, but they didn't. Ask yourself why. Her heart pounded. Because of the prophecy, she whispered. I heard them speak of it in whispers. The human leaned forward. His scarred hands rested on the console, his voice heavy. With truth, yes, the prophecy. And you are its center. The words fell like thunder in her mind. She shook her head. No, that can't be. I'm weak. I have nothing. He shook his head slowly. You have more than you realize. I have seen this before legends in human war camps, stories told in broken voices around dying fires, whispers of a half-blood child, born of human spirit and alien strength, carrying in her veins the power to awaken what no empire could control. She trembled. You mean the machines? He nodded. The ancients left them behind. Weapons, engines, guardians buried under colonies, under ruins, dead for centuries, dead to everyone. Except you. Her breath caught. Images flashed. In her mind, the torches bursting, the ground shaking, the commander thrown aside like a toy. It hadn't been her imagination. It had been real. Her blood had awakened them, but fear cut through her chest. If that is true, she whispered, then I am worse than dirt. I am a threat. They will never stop hunting me. The human's voice was iron. Let them hunt. Let them come. Because now you know the truth. You are not their mistake. You are their nightmare. Silence fell in the cockpit. The freighter hummed, stars streaking across the view dot at last. She asked the question burning deepest in her heart. Why are you here? She whispered, why did you fight for me? You could have walked away. You could have let me die. The human's eyes darkened. He leaned back, his scars catching the light. Because once, he said slowly, I followed orders. I obeyed. Commanders who told me which lives mattered and which lives didn't. And I watched innocent blood spill because I was too afraid to stand against them. I swore I would never make that mistake again. He looked at her, steady and unflinching. And then I saw you, chained, mocked, waiting for death. And I knew this was the moment I could not walk away. Her chest ached. She wanted to look away, but his eyes held her. You are more than you believe, he said. And if you stand, I will stand with you until the end. Before she could answer, alarms blared through the freighter. Red lights flashed. The ship rocked violently. The human sprang to his feet, slamming the console. They're here. Through the viewport, ships appeared sleek, black Zereth hunters, engines glowing like burning suns. Their weapons charged, locking onto the freighter. They tracked us, the girl whispered. The human's jaw tightened. Of course they did. They will never let you go. He grabbed the controls, pulling the freighter into a sharp dive. Beams of plasma sliced past, missing by inches. The ship shuddered as shields sparked under impact. The girl gripped the seat, fear flooding her chest. We can't outrun them, she cried. The human's voice was calm, steady even as the ship buckled around them. Then we don't outrun them, we make them afraid. The hunters closed in, weapons locking. The girl's heartbeat raced, and then it happened again. The hum, the vibration in her chest. The machines answering her blood. The freighter's console flickered, lights blazing. Brighter. The engines screamed louder, responding to her panic. She stared at her hands, glowing faintly again. It's me. It's happening again. The human's voice cut through the chaos. And don't fight it. Guide it. Trust it. Her fear twisted into something sharper focus. She reached out, her hands brushing the console, and the freighter roared to life. Engines flared with power far beyond their design. propelling the ship forward like a missile. Plasma beams streaked past, too slow to catch them. The girl's breath came fast, her eyes glowing brighter as she pushed. The ship turned sharp, sharper than should be possible, dodging enemy fire. The hunters hesitated. Their prey had become a predator, but the commander was not finished. From the largest hunter ship, his voice cut through the comms, filled with venom. "You cannot run, filth. You are mine." "The prophecy dies tonight." The girl flinched. Her hands trembled, but the human slammed his fist on the console, his voice a roar. "Do not listen to him. He fears you because he knows you are real. You are the prophecy." Her heart steadied, and with a scream, she pushed harder. The freighter's system surged, weapons long dormant coming online. Turrets spun, targeting the hunters. With each pulse of her blood, the guns roared. Explosions lit the void. Zirith hunters broke apart, burning in silence. The commander's ship shuddered under fire, shields cracking. "Impossible!" he roared. No half-blood could do this, but she did not stop. She poured every ounce of strength, every drop of pain, every memory of mockery into the machines, and the machines answered with fire. The last hunter ship exploded in a blaze of light, leaving only the commander's flagship Dot. The girl's strength faltered, her glow dimming. I can't hold it much longer." The human placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "Then I'll finish it." He grabbed the controls, diving straight toward the flagship. The commander's voice screamed through the comms, filled with rage and fear. "You are filth. You are nothing." The human's reply was a growl. "She is everything you fear." The freighter's guns roared one final time, tearing through the flagship's core. The explosion lit the void, scattering debris like shattered stars. Silence fell. The girl collapsed against the console, trembling, her chains clinking. The human caught her before she fell, steadying her in his arms. "You did it," he said. Quietly, she shook her head weakly. We did it." Her glow faded, but in her chest, something else burned stronger. Belief. As the freighter drifted through the wreckage. The human stared out at the stars. "They will not stop," he said, softly. "The Empire will come for us. Harder, stronger. They will send armies." The girl lifted her head, her voice quiet but firm. "Then let them come." Her chains rattled as she pulled them off, dropping them to the floor. She stood taller than she ever had, eyes fierce, no longer the mocked half-blood. "No matter what they call me," she said, "I will not kneel again." The human's scarred face broke into the faintest of smiles, and in that silence, in that broken freighter drifting through the stars, the prophecy was no longer a whisper. It was alive. And it had just begun. The triumph the galaxy stirred. Whispers spread like fire through the stars. The prophecy lives. The half-blood girl, mocked as filth, had risen in defiance. Machines long buried had awakened at her touch. A human scarred, exiled, relentless had stood with her against the Empire's iron chains. And the Zirith did not laugh anymore. They prepared for war. The freighter drifted through the void, scarred and battered. The girl sat in silence, staring at the endless expanse of stars, her hands still trembling with the memory of power. She had destroyed ships. She had torn open machines that had slept for centuries. But victory brought no peace. "They will come," she whispered. The human tightened the straps on his armor, his expression grim. "Yes, not hunters this time, not a commander and his guards. They will send fleets, armies, enough fire to burn a world." Her chest tightened. "For me?" His eyes met hers. "For what you are." They landed on a dead moon, hiding the freighter in its shadows. The human moved with steady purpose, repairing what he could, scavenging weapons from the wreckage they carried. The girl sat apart, chains now broken and tossed aside, but her mind still shackled by doubt. I can't fight an empire, she whispered to herself. Asterisk, but his voice came from behind her, calm as ever. You already have. She turned. One battle. One commander. That's nothing compared to what's coming. He crouched before her, his scarred face lit by the cold starlight. Listen to me. Empires fall. I have seen it. They believe themselves eternal, until someone shows them they can bleed. You showed them. Her throat tightened. But I am. Only alive, he cut in, and they cannot stand that. Asterisk, the silence stretched. The stars wheeled slowly overhead. Finally, she asked, If they come, will you stay with me? His reply was simple, heavy with iron truth. Until my last breath. The Empire came. A fleet of warships tore through the stars, their black hulls bristling with weapons. At their center flew a flagship, vast and terrible, carrying the one who had survived humiliation, the Zirith commander. His body was broken, armor reforged, but his rage burned hotter than ever. His voice thundered across the comms. Half-blood! Human! You think yourselves untouchable? Tonight, prophecy dies. The Empire endures. His words were carried to every colony, every world under Zirith control. He wanted them to see. He wanted them to watch the prophecy burn. The freighter shook as the fleet's shadow fell across the moon. The human strapped into the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. The girl stood behind him, her eyes glowing faintly already, the hum of the machines answering her heartbeat. This is not just escape, the human said. This is war, and war is never won by strength alone. It is won by will. She placed her hand on the console, and the freighter came alive, systems sparking, weapons glowing. I will not kneel again, she whispered, and the stars seemed to listen. The first wave struck. Dozens of Zirith fighters screamed through space, weapons blazing. The freighter should have been torn apart in seconds, but it wasn't. The girl's glow spread through the ship, her veins pulsing with light. The freighter responded as though it were part of her body, twisting, rolling, dodging fire with impossible grace. Turrets roared, guided by her will, cutting down hunters like paper. Explosions lit the void. The human steered with precision, his movements and hers blending seamlessly, his instincts and her power working as one. The first wave fell, but more came. Hundreds more. The battle became a storm. A human fought with grim focus, pushing the freighter beyond its limits. The girl pushed harder, her glow blazing, awakening ancient systems buried deep within the ship's core. But every push drained her. Her breaths came faster, her body trembling. There are too many, she gasped. His voice was calm, unshakable. Then we take more with us. And then the flagship moved. It dwarfed the others, a mountain of steel, its weapons glowing with the light of suns. At its helm, the commander's voice thundered again. Half-blood! You are not destiny. You are filth. And tonight, filth dies. A colossal beam tore across the void, slamming into the freighter. Shields screamed, consoles exploded, the ship buckled under the force. The girl cried out, her glow flickering. The human grabbed her shoulders. Stay with me? Breathe. She gasped, clutching the console. I can't. It's too strong. He shook his head, his voice fierce. No, listen to me. You are not too dirty to keep. You are the key to breaking them. Do you hear me? You are the key. Her eyes widened, tears mixing with fire, and the glow surged again. The freighter roared, engines blazing brighter than ever. The hum became a song, a rhythm pulsing with her heartbeat. Ancient codes unlocked within the ship, systems the Zirith had long forgotten or feared. Weapons awoke, not of human or alien design, but something older. The freighter became more than a ship. It became a weapon of prophecy. The girl rose, her voice strong for the first time in her life. You called me filth. You mocked me. But I am the storm you feared. The freighter's guns blazed, tearing through the fleet. Warships exploded, fire blooming like suns. The flagship shuddered, shields cracking under the impossible power. The commander screamed, his rage breaking into fear. No, this cannot be. She is nothing. But the galaxy itself seemed to whisper otherwise. The battle raged for hours. The Empire's fleet crumbled, one ship after another falling before the fire of prophecy. The freighter, small, scarred, broken, became the spear that tore through giants. But every strike drained the girl. Her glow dimmed, her breath shallow. The human saw it. He knew she was burning herself alive. No more, he said, gripping her hand. You'll die if you keep this. Her eyes met his, fierce even through exhaustion. If I stop, we both die. They all die. He shook his head, his voice breaking. I cannot lose you. Not now. She smiled faintly. You will. Not because I am not fighting alone. And she pressed his hand to the console. The glow spread not just through her, but into him. The machine responded to both of them, their bond merging into one, human defiance. Half-blood power. Together the freighter roared, brighter than ever. The final clash came. The flagship loomed, wounded but still monstrous. Its core pulsed with deadly power. The commander's voice screamed across the void, filled with madness. You are not destiny. You are dirt. You are mine. The girl's voice rose in answer, steady and fierce. No, I am free. The freighter dove, weaving through fire, its weapons blazing. The human guided it with precision, his instincts sharp, his hands steady. The girl poured the last of her strength into the ship, her glow blazing like a star. They struck the flagships. Heart. The explosion lit the void, brighter than dawn, tearing the monster apart. The commander's scream was lost in the fire, and the fleet was no more. Silence fell across the knee. Stars the freighter drifted among the wreckage, broken but alive. The girl collapsed against the console, her glow fading, her breath shallow. The human caught her, holding her close. His scarred face was streaked with sweat and blood, but his voice was steady. You did it, he whispered. Her voice was faint, but fierce. We did it. The galaxy would remember. The Zereth Empire had been broken, not by armies, not by fleets, but by the bond between two outcasts. A scarred human who refused to kneel. A half-blood girl once mocked as too dirty to keep. Together they had turned. Mockery into fire, chains into weapons, weakness into prophecy. And their triumph was only the beginning.